except for everybody in the NBA community besides Kings fans. For those who may not be aware, big news breaking out in Sacramento is there's more than likely going to be massive change for the franchise in the near future because we are now in a situation that was already bad but is getting significantly worse. Now, how exactly did all of this come about? Well, a failed attempt at signing a contract extension during the offseason, a very desperate trade that happened right after that failed attempt, then a really slow start to the season that then followed up firing head coach Mike Brown. And despite the fact that it seemed as if like Sacramento was really turning things around and they were right back to where everybody thought they were going to be, which is a 500 ball club, news is now finally broke that the Kings are finally open to the idea of trading De'Aaron Fox. And anyone who's been following this story when it comes to Fox and the Kings over the past 6 to 8 months now, in all actuality, this shouldn't be that much of a surprise. Many of those who were optimistic assumed that the reason why Fox declined the contract extension during the offseason was simply because he wanted to leave himself open to the idea of signing a Supermax contract just in case he made an All-NBA team. And I'm not saying that that wasn't potentially part of the equation or part of the reason why he didn't sign an extension, but a much bigger picture was that De'Aaron Fox was tired of being on a mediocre ball club that was consistently fighting for a playoff spot, and he got a point in his career where he wanted to contend at a much higher level, and so he wasn't going to sign long-term unless this team decides to do something about that. And unfortunately, Sacramento does exactly what Sacramento does best, and that is continue to be mediocre. But with all that being said, I'm here to tell you, to my Kings fans, De'Aaron Fox being traded, oh, that is just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the tippity top of all your problems, because it gets significantly worse. Now, I understand this is a very stressful time for all my Kings fans out there, but don't you dare worry. I have the perfect thing for you to work at all your stresses and problems all year long, and that is thanks to today's sponsors, BetterHelp. But first, a word from today's sponsors, BetterHelp. 2025 is here, so that means it's a new year, new you, but also new expectations and new challenges. And if you have a hard time dealing with these new challenges and have a lot of anxiety, the best way to compose yourself is with therapy, and I have the right place for you, and that's BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is a fully online platform that makes therapy comfortable and convenient. Thanks to their well-diverse network of over 30,000 professionals that has a wide ranging of specialties and background, you can easily find a new therapist within a matter of a couple of days after answering a questionnaire. And if the therapist that you match with does not meet your right needs and requirements, well, you can change therapists with no extra cost at all. But I'm pretty sure you're not going to have to do that whatsoever. BetterHelp as a platform has well-qualified therapists, customer service, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform that you can trust. So, if you're interested in any of this whatsoever, make sure you can start off your new year fresh with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/lowpost and get 10% off on your first month of therapy. Now, like I said in my intro, trading De'Aaron Fox when it comes to Sacramento and all the fans out there shouldn't be that big of a deal, shouldn't be that big of an issue, shouldn't be that big of a surprise, because this is a team that effectively, even though they've had a really good turnaround as of late, still is roughly a 500 ball club that's going to be fighting for a play-in spot and more than likely going to get bounced out the first round. And that's something that everyone should have known that Fox was trying to avoid. He got tired of being mediocre. And the idea that Sacramento was open to the idea of trading him, in all honesty, is probably the smartest thing that we've seen out of that franchise in quite some time, because the sooner that a franchise can realize that, hey, we're at a dead end right now, so we need to start trading our pieces, the more value you're going to receive in return. So that's all understandable. And even when it comes to where De'Aaron Fox is going to be traded to, that's not really that big of a news either, and probably going to slap him right on the thumbnail and make a crazy face next to him. But the truth of the matter is, there's only 3 franchises that are open and have the ability to actually trade for him. The 3 organizations I'm referring to are the Miami Heat, Houston Rockets, and then the San Antonio Spurs. 2 teams that I think are a bit of a stretch is Miami and Houston. Now, sure, Houston has exceeded expectations. They probably want to capitalize on its success. Jalen Green is probably a bigger project than people want to admit. But more importantly, they have a bunch of draft capital and flexible contracts and Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks that makes it very easy for them to go after De'Aaron Fox. And then when it comes to Miami, this would be the perfect situation to move over Jimmy Butler, move in the direction of a core that features Bam, Hero, and now Fox, give them the point guard that they've been desperately needing for quite some time. And even when it comes to Houston, also adding Fox to that team would really aid them with a lot of their half-court offensive defensive sets because I do believe that's something they're going to struggle with in terms of postseason performances. However, even with all the positives and many of which are common sense reasons to why both Miami and Houston should go after De'Aaron Fox, the truth of the matter is Fox being the best player on your team really and truly just puts a ceiling on the type of success you can expect. And that's going to be true for both of these franchises, even though I do love the fit in Miami. I just don't know how much further you can go into the postseason besides another finals appearance with De'Aaron Fox being the best or 1A, 1B situation with Hero and Bam. Moreover, even though yes, moving Jimmy Butler would make a lot of sense, they don't really have that much draft capital that would be that valuable. They have to dig really, really deep into the stash. And also, I highly doubt that Miami is going to move off of Khalil Ware, even though that would really make that transaction practically seamless for Sacramento. And then when it comes to Houston, again, making De'Aaron Fox the best player on the team, I don't really know. This is a team that has exceeded expectations, continue to grow and develop with a lot of young players. So putting a cap on what this team can achieve when everyone is still growing and developing, 23 and younger with the core, and then you have Amin Thompson is looking really, really good, doesn't really make that much sense, even though they have all the pieces to do so. In my opinion, it doesn't make any sense to make that type of commitment. But when it comes to the Spurs, it makes all the sense in the world. San Antonio's been looking for the point guard to pair next to Wemby, shift the defense, put pressure on the rim, and just make quality reads to the 7'6" giant they have as a franchise player that, for whatever reason, seems to be a problem with a lot of their guards not named Chris Paul within the first year and a half with Wemby now. And also, San Antonio is a team that struggles with their drives. So far this season, the Spurs are bottom 10 in drives per game, while De'Aaron Fox is one of the best drivers in the NBA. So having someone who's young, athletic, can shift the defense, put pressure on the rim is really going to help out this team significantly. Also, in terms of overall fit, I do believe Fox being on this team really does help him out as a player and becoming more impactful. Personally, I just believe that Fox over the past 2 to 3 years has had to do a lot of adjusting to his game, settling with a lot more mid-range and three-point shooting. And even though he has improved in those aspects, and I don't want to take anything away from him, his overall impact and value really skyrockets when he gets to the basket, puts a lot of pressure on the rim, and playing alongside Sabonis and other non-floor spacers such as DeMar DeRozan really has forced his game to be more perimeter-oriented, even though we all know he thrives at getting to the basket. And when you have the ability to play next to someone like Victor Wembanyama, who grabs a lot of attention regardless of where he's at on the floor, I do believe that dynamic duo of Wemby and Fox makes way more sense. And also, in this circumstance, Fox will undeniably be the second option to this team as Wemby continues to grow and develop. But more importantly, the Spurs have all of the assets in the world to go after De'Aaron Fox. I believe they have like 30 draft picks, which is pretty crazy, one of which is a 2031 draft pick that they received from the Sacramento Kings during the offseason during the Harrison Barnes and DeMar DeRozan transaction. They also have a slew of young players as well that they could easily move, as well as some very flexible contracts as well in both Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins. So all of it makes sense, and I do believe that regardless if it happens at the deadline or during the summer, De'Aaron Fox will inevitably find himself playing in San Antonio next to Victor Wembanyama. And when that does happen, boy oh boy, are we in for a treat! To be fair to some of my Sacramento Kings fans out there, it seems as if like there is a bit of a hesitation to move off of Stephon Castle, a player that I think a lot of people assume will be a part of the transaction. And if that's the case, that's tough! But then again, it's the Kings. They tend to make bad deals anyway, so who knows what's going to occur. But even if Castle is not in the transaction, I still believe a deal that consists of Keldon Johnson and a slew of other draft capital will be more than enough to get this deal done, especially because, again, selling your highest that you can on De'Aaron Fox should be the end goal for the Kings. And again, this is the big reason why I'm not too stressed out on Fox, where he's going to go. If anything, this really and truly is just signaling the white flag that's waving in Sacramento to go ahead and just restart what they have going out there on that franchise, because they are clearly lost. My biggest concern is when they do restart, not what they're going to get for De'Aaron Fox, but what are you going to get for everyone else? And this right here is where the debacle, the constant rerun of mediocre and poor decision making out in Sacramento really is going to show its ugly head, as it always does. So let's go through the roster. First, when it comes to Malik Monk, you should get a really good return on him. He's a guard, comes off the bench, spark plug, having a really good career, sneaky underrated passer and playmaker. Plenty of teams in the NBA would love to have him on a team. I do believe that should yield you a few draft picks in return, as well as a couple of flexible contracts, right? But then everyone else, well. Keon Ellis, another guard, a two-way guard a little bit. Three-point shooting has improved. I believe he's like 25 years old, still in his rookie deal if I'm not mistaken. You should also get a really good deal on him as well. But everyone else, it's a big yikes dog. Both Keegan Murray and Kevin Kevin Huerter, selling them at their lowest value gonna be tough. Kevin Huerter in particular, if I'm not mistaken, career lows across the board in points, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage, a sharpshooter that can't shoot threes. Basically, the same thing can be said about Keegan Murray, a sharpshooter who's having a terrible three-point shooting season. The only saving grace on Keegan is that he's still on his rookie deal, probably still has a lot more upside. Hopefully, a change of scenery will probably get his three-point shooting back up, especially if he's on a team that has proper playmaking, and also defensively, he has improved over the years as well, so to give him grace on that. But more than likely, Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter, trading them right now, or at least in the summer, you're probably going to be trading them when their value is at their absolute lowest. So what you're going to receive in return for them, who really knows? That's going to be a big yikes. But I do believe a few teams should be interested in the idea of receiving both of those players, especially the teams that swung and missed on Cam Johnson. Keegan Murray should be a really good consolation prize for those who missed out on Cam. Now, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. What are they going to do about DeRozan Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan? Wowzers! And this right here is where everything not only turns full circle, but it again displays the level of incompetency from this franchise. Because A, DeMar DeRozan shouldn't even be on this roster, let alone signing him to a deal where he's getting paid $23 to $25 million for the next 3 years when he signed the deal at 35 years old. I get it. Y'all sat down with De'Aaron Fox in the offseason. He said, I'm not going to sign that extension until you improve the roster because I want to see where we can go. I'm tired of being mediocre. And if your response, if your solution to the answer of being mediocre was, well, we can give you DeMar DeRozan, that right there should have been your pause and hesitation and said, hey man, if the only thing that we can do to improve is bring in DeMar DeRozan, we probably just need to blow it up. We just need to blow it up. There's no need for us to go after DeMar if the complaint is being mediocre and bring in someone that's going to continue to breed mediocrity. That makes no sense. And in the process of doing so, you traded a draft pick, a 2031? They traded Harrison Barnes and a 2031 draft pick to the San Antonio Spurs on July 8th. My goodness. Boy, oh boy, are y'all just dumb. So what are you going to receive for DeMar? His value is heavily predicated with being on this team with this roster. And even then, that value was very questionable and shaky. So more than likely, you're just going to have to eat that right there. I have a hard time believing any team will be rushing to the door to go get DeMar DeRozan. But then we have the Domantas Sabonis situation, and it may be even worse. Now, for those who may not be familiar with this channel, I uploaded a video during the offseason, and it's probably one of my better works where I talked about unwanted stars in the NBA, and I effectively broke down all the players in the league into 3 different categories. You got your superstars, your top 10, top 20 players, then you got your role players, supporting cast members, and right in the middle are your pseudo stars, the stars that still are going to receive top-notch dollar, a lot of times max or near max money, sometimes even super max. But the reason why they receive that money isn't because they are one of the top 10, 15, or sometimes even 20 players. It's because their value to receive that contract is ultra specific and unique to the team that they are on. For example, Jamal Murray, his value is specifically unique to the Denver Nuggets. Very few teams in the NBA will be rushing to give him a max contract. Those teams trying to sustain talent on their roster fork over a lot of money because that's the only way that they can retain that level of player on their team. However, when things don't work out, you then find yourself with a player making a large lump sum of money where his value is only unique to your team, and that's exactly who Domantas Sabonis is. Because I really want to know which teams in the NBA will be rushing to the idea of trading for Domantas Sabonis when he's making $40 to near $50 million on a year-to-year basis on his contract. So the major concern about trading Fox isn't about where he's going to go and what they're going to receive in return. It's more about how this is a team that has committed a lot of players, a lot of money to this roster that is built around the idea of De'Aaron Fox being on the team. And if he's not on the team anymore, what happens to everyone else? Because their value is predicated on the construction of the roster of him still being a king. He's not going to be that anymore. You're going to have to rebuild, and everyone knows that that's what you're going to have to do, and that right there is where everything really falls apart for Sacramento. But hey, that's my video. Kings fans, you thought I wasn't going to get this off? I was a little under the weather, so it took me a couple of days to kind of get back in my bag. But don't you dare worry. I'm going to make sure I report on every single moment of it, just like you all wanted me to. You wanted me to talk about the Kings more, so here we are. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell. And until next time, Kings, I'll see you all later. Peace.